Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Thursday. Is it Thursday right now? Can you hear me? Is this working?
Yep, it is Thursday.
Oh, okay. I'm like, I lost sound for a minute there. I don't know what happened. Yeah, welcome to the Thursday edition of Encrypted Connections. I don't know why the comments are not showing up right now. Mm-hmm. This is giving us trouble tonight. We have people here, but I don't know what's going on.
It must be a full moon.
It must be. Poor Emily couldn't get on or into the studio. Now, I have nothing in the comment section. Okay, there we go. Now we got some coming on. Okay. Maybe no one commented yet. I can usually expect that one of my moderators, Cashew, who's like everywhere. I don't know if you've ever been on a podcast or any other channel in the YouTube world, you've probably seen her. She is everywhere.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, she's incredible. She does so much for so many people. I say it all the time. I'm extremely grateful for her and the work that she does, because she does it for free. I mean, she promotes this channel like nobody.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Yeah, she is. She's something special. She really is. And she's so invaluable. And I try every time that we go on to give her props, because she deserves them. And not only is she great at that stuff, but she's just a wonderful person, a great human being on top of it all. I mean, her life philosophy and mine are very similar, so it's kind of funny that we cross paths this way.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I totally get that. I feel like through doing this, I've met so many incredible people, and it really kind of gives you faith in society, because, in your everyday life, people may be rude, they may push past you, but when you meet somebody good online and through this community especially, it's just such an honor. I feel like everybody is so nice in this community.
It really is. So far, it's been incredibly positive. I hear stories that there's a lot of divisiveness among certain researchers, and people let their egos kind of take over and yada yada. But the people that I've met so far, like Alex, just what a great guy he is. He's amazing, and the dude is just so smart. His memory for things, it's like some kind of like intellectual trap. As soon as he hears something, and that's it, it's in there forever.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Amazing. But yeah, he's one of them. Jay Bachochin is a good friend of mine. He's such a sweetheart of a guy.
Such a nice guy.
Oh my God, he's the best. Just great people so far. I'm very happy, because this was all kind of on a whim, like how I even did this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was crazy. I won't tell the whole story. I'll let you know another time, but suffice to say that, like, I had somebody who was mentoring me in my research and telling me I needed to start a channel. And he was a wonderful man. You probably know who he is, Kerry Arnold.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him. Yep.
Yeah,
Wasn't he involved in Sasquatch Chronicles at one
Bigfoot
point?
Odyssey. Well, he did a show. He did an episode.
He did an episode, right? That's what I
Yeah.
thought. I thought he was on that. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, and so I kept putting it off, and then Kerry interviewed me on his show, which he continued to push to get me on, and I kept telling him, no, I wasn't ready.
Right.
And then I finally said, all right, fine. And I'm very glad I did, for a lot of reasons. It ended up being extremely cathartic for me. And then it ended up being his last show before he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah. Kind of a lot. There's a lot of, it kind of goes both ways, right? So like, there's a lot of heavy weight that comes with that.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of like, I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity.
Right.
But yeah, so that's kind of how this all started. It was really crazy. I've only been doing this for like 3 months.
Really? I was going to say, I mean, I hadn't seen your name before, and when you reached out, I clicked on your page. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. I can't wait to connect and kind of catch up and get to know each other more.
Yeah. So I'm excited. Like I said, I've been following your Instagram, which is it's right there at the Forest Fleur. A little play on words, I see.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we were just talking backstage. If you guys don't follow it, please check it out. It's such a great page. First of all, like the quality of everything that you post on there is just it's so nice. Like I joked about the pictures, but it's true that it's just so nice and professionally done. And just great posts, stuff to get you thinking and like engaged, which is really cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really try and in the Bigfoot community, a lot of times you go to a Bigfoot website and it's difficult to navigate. It's not really aesthetically pleasing. And I think that's why it's been so hard for people to learn about Sasquatch. I know that myself, when I started researching, I was on the Smithsonian's website. I was trying to figure out human evolution, and I was just so confused. And having to understand those big words was difficult. It's definitely not an easy thing to learn about. Well, at least it wasn't up until recently. And I decided to just kind of make my website and my social media a place that was really approachable for anyone getting involved in the subject. If you don't know anything about Bigfoot, I want you to be able to come to my page and be able to understand, the science behind it. And then maybe if you're more of a Bigfoot expert or enthusiast, same thing, you can come to my page, and I hope that there's something there for everybody. That's kind of the goal.
Yeah, and I think you do a really good job of that. It definitely is. There definitely is something for everybody, for sure, 100%. And what you said about getting into this subject matter and it being difficult if you go down certain paths, right? Even still, I find that like I have that problem when I'm trying to look up certain things, right? Or trying to find out certain things. Like if I'm looking up like body morphology ratios compared to human beings, right? Like there's no like Sasquatch for dummies, right? So,
right.
And I'm just, I'm a regular Joe. Like I do what I do because I just, number one, I had a passion. I loved it when I was a kid. I just was grabbed by it like instantly, right? The what if, that whole like, oh my gosh. And then in 1994, I had my encounter, like totally changed everything. So I want to know now, and I'm sure this is a question you get asked very often. What got you started? Was it like when you were a child? Did you have that imagination when you saw a picture of Patty or something and you were like, oh my gosh?
Well, I think that I've always been interested in the unknown and mysteries. I always used to watch shows about aliens or mermaids, but none of that really resonated with me. I always kind of found holes in theories, and it just didn't really feel tangible. But, once I came across Sasquatch, I was just totally enthralled with the subject. I was watching a documentary, actually. I stumbled across a documentary. It's The Legend of Bigfoot by Ivan Marks.
Yes.
And Ivan Marks was kind of a known hoaxer, but nonetheless, his documentary was very inspiring. I found it to be very inspiring, and it was all about this man, Ivan Marks, who was out in the Pacific Northwest searching for Sasquatch and looking for evidence. And once I saw that documentary as a young girl, I thought to myself, wow, this is actually something that people are doing. It's not just, ooh, there's something in the woods. People are actually going out and looking for it. And so after I saw that documentary, I begged my parents. I said, can we please go to, a squatchy area? Can we please go see if we could find any evidence and learn more about the subject? And so finally, after months and months, I convinced them to take a trip to Whitehall, New York. I grew up just outside of New York City, so the area that I've lived in my whole life is not very Bigfooty. There really aren't any Bigfoots around. So we traveled to Whitehall, New York, and that is kind of the Bigfoot capital of the state. There was a very famous sighting involving law enforcement up there, and many sightings since then in the 70s up until today. And so I went to Whitehall, went to the local museum, talked to some of the curators, and I learned so much about the local history. And that, coupled with Seth Breedlove's Beast of Whitehall documentary, I just became so infatuated with the subject. And so from there, my interest grew. I started writing all of my college essays on Bigfoot. I started producing some souvenirs in order to make money so that I can use that money for field work and for, trips and expeditions. And it just kind of grew from there. And then I started the Forest Fleur in 2017. And it just started out as me in my basement, researching on my parents' computer and drawing Bigfoots on little wooden slabs to make coasters and ornaments. And from there, it has progressed into such a huge thing. And I'd like to really call it a community. I mean, I've made so many connections and friends, and my followers are more than just followers to me. We talk every day. I mean, I talk to these people literally every single morning. The first thing I do when I wake up is I put on my glasses and I scroll through my Instagram messages, and I just talk about Bigfoot with people. So it's been a great journey so far, and that's kind of how it all started.
It's really refreshing to hear somebody say that you are so engaged with your followers, right? Because listen, this, like I said, this is 3 months old. I have like 700 and something subscribers.
That's awesome.
No, listen, it's amazing to me.
Yeah.
When I started this, I thought to myself, like, man, if I have 50 subscribers in like 4 months, like that would be so cool.
Yeah.
So yes, have 700 in 3 months, and the number of views that I've had on the channel is really incredible. But it's not because of me; it's because of the guests, right? It's what it's about. It's about the guests. I'm just here to facilitate. It's amazing people like yourself who make that job super easy. This is Ollie. He makes an appearance every single time that I go live. Someone will comment, watch, oh, here comes the cat again.
Oh, how cute. Oh, he's so cute.
He doesn't come downstairs to bother me at all during the day.
Oh, only when you get on a podcast.
I swear to God, it's every single time I go live. And he'll come up, lay on my lap, and then he'll leave, and he'll come back 3 or 4 times.
I love it.
He's wonderful, but he can be a pain in your ass.
Oh.
Trying to chew on your microphone cord. But anyway, what I was saying is, it's super refreshing to hear you talk about engaging with your followers on a regular basis, because like we were talking about before, the people that I've met through this are so incredibly important to me. So many of them. And I hate to say like, oh, my viewers, my subscribers, because it's so much more than that to
Right,
me.
exactly.
And I always try to say, like, whenever anyone subs to the channel, if I get that notification, I always write a comment or a message saying, thank you so much. Welcome to the family. Because for me, that's what it is. It's a family.
Yep.
So it's super nice to see that you do that too, because a lot of people don't.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely come across my fair share of researchers in this field that kind of tend to shut people out. I think maybe, they want to keep all of the information to themselves, maybe. And I understand. I mean, everybody has different ways of going about things. It's kind of like finding buried treasure, right? Everybody wants to get there first. And I
Yeah.
totally understand that. Of course, I want to be the first person to find Sasquatch. But I think that my reasoning behind that is a little different than some other people. I want to be the first person because I want to be the one to protect them. If this
Yes.
discovery gets into the wrong hands, it could be detrimental to their species. So I think that everybody has different motives in this field. And I myself have been kind of, shunned by certain people. And, of course, I'm not one to gossip, so I won't go too much into it. But I just think, I would never want to make somebody else feel that way. And I always want people to come to my page and feel included and feel like they can get to know me on a personal level. And I think, you would probably agree. You're kind of the same way. You want to introduce yourself, let them know that it's more than just a face on camera. You're an actual person that cares about these people and what they have to say.
100%. 100%. One of the things that was so important to me doing this was, a big part of it was to help educate people who may not know a lot, or may not even know that these things actually exist, right? That they
Right.
are very real, to help prevent anybody else from having a traumatic encounter like I did. Because
Wow.
it changed everything. I didn't go in the woods for almost 30 years afterward. I'll tell you about it another time. But yes,
Yeah.
so that was part of it. The other thing that I wanted to make sure that I was accessible to everybody at any
Mm-hmm.
time, right? So,
Yep.
um, I in case somebody needed to talk and they didn't want to talk on camera, they didn't want to tell their story about what happened to them or what's going on their property, possibly, right? But they need someone to talk to. You can talk to me. Like, I'm here. I'm accessible at any time. If I don't see it right away, I will, and I'll get back to you.
Right.
So yes, that's awesome. You're going up notches in my book every couple minutes here.
You're so sweet.
So I'm going to go back to Whitehall and Abear Road. This is such an amazing story, right?
Yes.
One of my good buddies, who is in the chat right now, his name is Bigfoot Lake, lives in Whitehall, New York.
Ooh.
Him and his wife are friends with Brian Gosling.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, how neat is that? I heard you I think at some point, I don't remember where, say that you got to talk with Brian. Is that correct?
Yes, I actually had Brian on my podcast, and it was such an honor to just hear his story firsthand. It was probably the most profound story that I've heard, just because the amount of detail that he goes through and the consistency is just unmatched. I mean, I've heard him tell this story on podcasts, documentary interviews, you name it, even his book and other publications. And every single time he tells the story, he relays the same details. And to me, that just shows his credibility. And I mean, it's just my favorite encounter to date, I have to say.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites for sure. A lot of other police officers who were there sensationalized that account, right?
Yeah.
They tried to make money off of it and get on TV. Brian is not that guy.
No.
Brian is the total opposite. I mean, he is the figurehead of integrity.
Yes, yes.
right? And what a police officer should be.
Mhm.
His ability to see all those details while this crazy thing is happening, goes to it really speaks to his professionalism in his job,
Yeah.
because that's such a difficult thing to do when
Oh.
you are in a position like that.
Especially in a small town where word travels fast. I mean, the amount of judgment he received was just incredible. And he just continued to tell his story and to stick to the details. And that's what I really like about him.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is Lake Fairy. She is Bigfoot Lake's wife.
Oh, awesome.
And so she says, Brian's story, we watch his arm hair stick up to this day. His encounter never changes. Emily, you were right.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most incredible part about his encounter is that it's just stayed so consistent over the years. And, I mean, I've heard a lot of different reports, and sometimes people may mess up details. And I mean, hey, we're only human. It's hard to even remember what I had for breakfast. I can't imagine seeing a Sasquatch and relaying every single, detail of the encounter. But Brian has just stuck with that. And it also shows, in a profession like law enforcement, you're trained to study detail. You need to remember things. And so when I hear encounters from law enforcement officers or even hunters, these are people that are trained to kind of zone in on their senses and, pay attention to details. So I always find those reports more credible than others.
Yeah, I totally. And it's not to say that police officers aren't fallible, right? They're human beings too.
Sure.
But they are, especially kind of back in the day a little bit, they were, they really kind of, and I don't want to like dump on police officers now, but things are a little different now in the police profession. You see a lot of things that aren't really great going on, across the United States. But back then, these were people who were really looked up to in the community, expected to really do the right thing, and I believe that they did for the most part. And so when I hear an account from a police officer, from back in the 70s, 80s, whatever, 60s, my first reaction is like, they're probably not lying, because people didn't talk about these things back then either.
Right.
Especially, like you said, especially in a small town.
Yeah. And the people of Whitehall, I mean, how many of them at that time really had even heard of the Patterson-Gimlin film? I don't even know if the word about it had traveled to the East Coast, and spread out that fast. I don't think that many of them probably even knew about it. So they probably didn't even have a frame of reference for what this was. And that's why I find Whitehall to be such an iconic place. And I mean, I go to the festival every year. I absolutely love visiting there and going Bigfooting in the local wilderness. It's just the vibe. It's like going to Boggy Creek, it's just iconic, or the Patterson-Gimlin site, it has that history that gives you this feeling that you just can't explain,
Bigfoot Disneyland.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've been to Boggy Creek, huh?
I have not, but I have heard from other researchers that it's just an incredible experience to be there, and you just feel all that energy. And so I really, I wanted to go. I was planning a trip, but unfortunately, right before I booked my flights, the pandemic hit and kind of shut down everything. So I was planning on going to Boggy Creek. I was planning on going to Falk and going to even Ohio. I wanted to check out Salt Fork State Park. There were a few places on my radar, but the pandemic unfortunately derailed that. But, the pandemic also allowed me to go study Sasquatch in Oregon for 3 months. So it didn't work out too bad. I just ended up in a different place.
Nice. Yeah, I saw some of that like on your page that you were out there for a while. That must have been incredible. I mean, Oregon is like the forests out there. First of all, are like it's like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
In some of them, they're just so beautiful.
Yeah, you feel like you're in Jurassic Park. I have to say, it was really the experience of a lifetime. I was fortunate enough to go out there and study under a couple of researchers who really know what they're doing. One of them being one of my team members, and another one being a tracker, an animal tracker. I mean, I learned so much about wildlife. I learned about the sounds of the forest, what's natural, what's not. And I had a couple of my own encounters out there. Haven't had a full-on sighting, but I did have some very profound encounters and exciting things happen. And it was just such an amazing experience to learn a little bit more about how these, creatures behave and how they kind of act around humans. It was just a very valuable experience. I learned so much, and I think that's really what I needed along my journey to discover Sasquatch. I mean, haven't discovered it just yet, but I think that we're all in the discovery process. We're all in this together. And when I first started out, I knew everything I could know about the anatomy and the history and the sightings. And it's like, okay, I know all of that, but I'm not out in the field. And so when the pandemic hit, I lost my job, and I was able to dedicate a couple of years just to Bigfooting. So the first year I stayed local. I went to upstate New York and did some Bigfooting up there. But then I kind of thought to myself, you know what, like I'm not really finding anything. I'm not really coming across as much evidence as I'd like. I'm not really in an area that I feel is very good for these things. It just didn't feel right. I was choosing the wrong hiking trails. I was choosing the wrong areas. There were people around. I was thinking to myself, like, what am I doing wrong? And so going out to Oregon and studying under these researchers was so valuable, because I learned exactly what I was doing wrong. I needed to be picking different habitat, needed to be going to more secluded areas, researching the local wildlife to see what's around, looking at food sources. And as soon as I learned all of that, I came back to upstate New York. And, I've been using those techniques up here, and I haven't been doing it for too long because I actually just relocated up here. But I am just so beyond excited to get out in the field and like apply everything I know from Oregon. So it's really exciting.
That's a hell of a place to go. Bigfooting up in like the Adirondacks and incredible areas up there. Those mountains and that wilderness up there is really like charged. There's just a lot of history and different kind of feelings up there from what people say. I've never been myself, but I've heard a lot of crazy stuff going on up there. So that's
I mean, I've had my team members all came to New York to visit and to do some field work, and every single one of them, one is from Wisconsin, one's from California, one is from Oregon, and all of them said, you know what? We did not expect New York to look like this. People just think of New York City. And although you might see some Sasquatch lookalikes in New York City, it definitely does not represent the Bigfooting in this state. So Catskills, Adirondacks, Hudson Valley, Connecticut border, Massachusetts border. I mean, every part of New York State, aside from New York City and maybe Long Island, every part of New York State has sightings, and the habitat is just incredible. I think what people don't understand about New York is that, out west you have national forests, and that's the land that you're going to go Bigfooting on, and that's where, these animals are kind of preserved out there. But out here, they're preserved more within private property. There are a lot of New York City people that make a lot of money, right? Doctors, nurses, Wall Street people that make a lot of money, and then they buy houses in upstate New York with acres and acres of property, and maybe they visit a couple times during the summer, but most of the year the house is vacant. They're living in a New York City apartment. And so, you have to remember that there is a lot of land in the Adirondacks and Catskills that is not used for hunting. It's like a refuge for all animals. And so, for people to say there's no Bigfoot in New York is just silly, in my opinion, because there's so much private property where these animals are not really in danger. They're just free to roam around for most of the year. I mean, that's the ideal situation. And then when the humans are around, they're probably shooting deer on their property, and that's a free meal for Sasquatch. So you really can't get better than this state.
Definitely. Yeah, I live in Connecticut. So.
Do you really? Which part of Connecticut?
I live down on the shore, southeastern Connecticut.
Okay.
But, I'm very familiar with upstate New York.
Yeah.
I've been through there a bunch of times on my way to Canada a bunch of times, and visiting friends or whatever. So I'm familiar with the terrain. Lake George I've been to a few times.
Love Lake George.
Oh, it's awesome. So yeah, people don't get it.
And Connecticut too is the same way. I mean, so many encounters. I plotted a map of all the encounters in New York and all of the bordering states, and Connecticut had by far the most encounters of the bordering states.
Really?
Oh my gosh, so many. On the western border of Connecticut, there are some. And you know what else? There's a really good encounter also. Kind of northeastern Connecticut has a lot of clusters of encounters. Really great area.
Yeah, that's where I've been going to do all my field research is the Northeast.
Perfect. That's the right. Where was your encounter?
October Mountain, in the Berkshires.
Yes, there are so many reports out of that area. I just was looking into that. That's incredible. I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was really crazy.
Oh my gosh. We will definitely have to connect, and I want to hear more about that story.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yes.
It's nuts.
Wow.
Doug Hychek. I'm laughing even thinking about it. You know who Doug is, right?
Yep.
Okay, so Doug, a part of the encounter was he you could see his man parts. Okay.
Wow.
Yes, and
Interesting.
so Doug, right, who I looked up to so much,
Right.
Finally, was able to talk with Doug, and I wasn't expecting anything, but I certainly didn't expect him to ask me, so tell me about Bigfoot's junk.
Well, I guess it's an area that most witnesses don't focus on.
No, and again, it's data, it's scientific
Right.
data, right?
It is.
But it was funny in the moment. It was just
Yeah.
I was so caught off guard.
That is so funny. But I mean, I guess when you think about it, I think the proportions of the genital area on gorillas and chimps is a little bit different than humans. So who knows? Maybe it can clue us into what they are.
Yeah, for sure. It was similar to a chimpanzee, more so than a human. Yeah. But we're not going to talk about.
So I guess big feet don't matter then, huh?
Guess not. He probably was about size 24 shoe too. So.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. How does this happen? Anyway, I wanted to ask you, this is a more tough question. So I saw that you are kind of exploring your theories that maybe these things are Australopithecus sediba.
Yeah.
Right? What are your thoughts then on the DNA studies and the mitochondrial DNA coming back human, not just Ketchum's either? There's been so many other ones. What are your thoughts on that side of things?
I would say, I definitely think that it's a possibility that Sasquatch could be a Homo species. I'm definitely a firm believer in we don't know everything about them, just by looking at them. Just because they're covered in hair, just because, they have midfoot flexibility, that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be, in the gorilla or chimpanzee world over there. They could very well be closer to our species. But I think that, unfortunately, any sort of DNA studies that have been published haven't really been able to be verified to a degree of coming up with a real solid conclusion, right? So I don't think we have enough of those studies. I think that we definitely need more. If we have 5 or 10 of those studies all saying the same thing, I think we're really going to be onto something. But I do believe that it could be, of the Homo species. You look at Australopithecus sediba, and you kind of see a lot of similarities between them and Bigfoot. At least, what we assume about Bigfoot, right? We know that they leave footprints and that they have midfoot flexibility. Sediba also had midfoot flexibility. But scientists really struggled with where they were going to put this species when they found the bones of Sediba. Are they going to go into the Homo category and be a Homo species, or are they going to be an Australopithecine? Where are they putting them? Because from the top up, they were very human-like, and from the bottom down, they were a little more ape-like. So it was very difficult for scientists to place this species. But when you look at the prefrontal cortex and you look at some other anatomical features of Sediba, it does really line up a lot with Bigfoot. Now, I don't like to tell people that Bigfoot has to be Sediba, right? We can't marry our theories, and at the end of the day, I'd have to analyze a Bigfoot skeleton in order to really make that conclusion. And same with saying that it could be a Homo species. But I think at the end of the day, we just have to do our best to guess where they might fit. And a lot of researchers have told me, Emily, it doesn't matter what they are. We just have to find them. Okay, well, I have to disagree with that point. I've heard that from so many people, and I will stand firm in saying it's very important to know what they are, because that's how we are going to find them. Let's say that scientists are looking for gorillas, right, in the jungle. They're going to look for them a lot differently than if they're looking for a group of remote living humans in the Amazon rainforest, right, an indigenous group of humans. They're going to look for humans much differently than they're going to look for a gorilla. So I think it's really important to do our best to guess what Sasquatch could be in order to find them. I don't think we're going to find them by just saying, well, they're their own thing, because that really doesn't tell us much. If we use behavior observed in encounters to put the pieces together, I think that's going to help us to find them. Some people say they have language. Some people say they get bluff charged. And I think that's the biggest problem with Sasquatch, is that so much of their behavior is very great ape-like, but then so much of their behavior is human-like. So it's really difficult to place them on our family tree. And yes, they probably will just be their own thing on our family tree. However, by comparing them to other species, Homo species, by comparing them to Australopithecines, it just gives us a clearer idea of how they might be living, where they might be going. And I think that's going to be the key in discovering them.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. Are you familiar with Dr. Igor Burtsev from Russia? Yeah, oh, that guy's amazing too. His whole thing is studying them where they're at, instead of instead of trying to how do I word this? It's all about kind of like what you're saying, right? So figuring out what their behavioral patterns are and meeting them there, which obviously is kind of the conundrum, right? It's very difficult to do, but it's finding out what those patterns are and meeting them and studying them there, instead of trying to aggressively go get one of these things, harm one, take one for a specimen, which I am completely against.
Me too.
Number one, like I, whether this is a Homo species or it's something else, right? Either way, like I'm an animal lover through and
Yep.
through, right?
Yep.
And I obviously love people. So it for me, like either way, it has to be protected for those two things. And then on top of that, because of just how special this species is, there's nothing else like it. There's just nothing like it. It's so incredible when you really think about it. And I know people throw things out when they're talking about, Bigfoot, and they're like, oh, 8 feet tall, like 700 pounds, and very nonchalant. I always try to tell people, like, do you really understand how big 8 feet tall is?
Right.
Like, stand in your living room and look up at your ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually about 8 feet tall.
Yep. I always do that.
That's crazy. That is crazy. Now add to that, and I think this is conservative for most of them. I think an 8 foot tall Sasquatch, an average Sasquatch, is probably going to weigh in the neighborhood of 800 pounds. That's my thought. Maybe more.
Yeah.
Just when you think about bone structure, and then if you know anything about musculature, the density of muscles, especially on these things, like they just look so densely muscly, like their muscles are hard all the time.
Yeah.
Like they're flexed all the time, and it's probably because of the way that they've lived, right? Crawling on the ground on all fours, like a lot of the time, or swinging in the trees. Who knows? I don't know. They may swing from the trees constantly. Like, who knows? But they're meant to live where they live. That's the whole thing. They are built for it perfectly, from top to bottom, and it's really amazing to think about. I get so excited, like when I start to think about it all.
Me too. I mean, it's kind of just an exciting thing either way, whether they're closer to human or closer to like an Australopithecine or a great ape. Either way, I mean, it's just so fascinating. I personally, I think maybe I want them to be closer to human, because picture a gorilla but 8 foot tall. If they're closer to like a chimp or a gorilla, I think that's probably more terrifying than if they're closer to a human. At least if they're closer to us, they might have some like sympathy for us in the woods. You know what I mean?
Listen, this is why I believe they are closer to us, because if these things were if these creatures were more like a gorilla or a chimpanzee, and they had those primal instincts where they get, like a chimpanzee gets sexually mature, those things get aggressive.
Yeah.
And a chimp could I'm 280 pounds and 6'3". A chimpanzee would rip me to pieces in seconds.
Yeah.
And they're not, I mean, some of them are kind of big, but not not like this.
I totally agree with you. It's like if they're a great ape, I don't know how many of us would, be here. I mean, I don't know. I guess you could argue it, because I guess when you look at reports of people getting attacked by great apes, it's probably not like a super high number, but I just think like it's circumstantial, right? Like a lot of people in the United States are going to the same areas that Sasquatch is. We're going into their areas, we're hunting, we're fishing, we're hiking, whatever it might be. I feel like there would be more attacks if they were closer to a great ape. I tend to agree with you. I think there's some sort of reasoning there, and not to say great apes are not intelligent. They're highly intelligent, but I think there is some reasoning there that goes on in their brains.
Yeah, agreed. Before we keep going, Browndorf wants to know if you have a YouTube channel.
I do not have a YouTube channel. I thought about making one. I might make one in the future, but for now, my main platform is really Instagram. I do a lot of reels on there, and I'm going to have a lot more reels coming. Now that I've relocated, I finally have the peace and the quiet and the space to create videos that are educational, create fieldwork videos, and I just bring everybody along with me on Instagram and Facebook. So that's mainly where you could find me, and of course my website as well.
Brown Dwarf, you didn't see the title of the show, right? Instagram star. Instagram star.
I don't know about star.
She's working on almost 9,000 followers. That's an Instagram star. That's a whole lot of people.
That's so funny. Yeah, I mean it's been growing, and I'm really just so grateful because I've heard so many encounters, and like we were talking about before, just made so many friends on there. So it's really been an honor, and anyone who wants to join the group can totally come along. And I have a Facebook group too, for anybody to share theories and if they want kind of a more private setting.
Right on. Yeah. Okay. So I didn't know you had a Facebook group. This social media stuff, I'm not really great at. Because of the channel, I've really kind of had to get more into it.
Yeah.
Started a second Instagram specifically for this, and then also a Facebook group. So I'll make sure I go follow that too. Here we go. Cashew. This is Cashew. This is my moderator. This is my oracle. She's everything.
Love that.
She will share everything of yours on.
Oh, thank you so much.
She's amazing, incredible. Here we go. What else? Here we get the Forest Floor website, and then the Forest Floor Facebook is up there. I'll click on that in a little while. Let people get a little time to look at this. Emily also has a store, guys, just so you know, with a lot of really cool stuff on it. Beanies and the little coaster things, right? Is that what they are? The coasters, aren't they?
Yep, I have a whole houseware line. I have an apparel line, so I have beanies and bandanas and different things like that. And then I have ornaments and magnets. And then I also just introduced field gear, which I'm super excited about. Really? So, if anybody's interested in getting involved and going out and looking for footprints, casting footprints, things like that.
Oh, I saw that.
Everything on there.
I saw the collapsible thing for the plaster.
Yeah, so it's funny. I found a footprint in 2020 in Vermont. What I think is a footprint. There were pretty clear toes, and it was in a pretty desolate area, especially for the time of year. But it was like -1 degrees out. It was so cold, and so as I was mixing the plaster to pour it into the print, I just kind of didn't mix it correctly. And I was mixing the plaster inside of a water bottle, like a reusable water bottle. And then I poured it out, and it completely ruined the print. And I was so devastated because that was my very first footprint find. I was so excited and proud of myself for dedicating all that time to find it. And then there it was, just completely ruined before I could even take some pictures with a scale item. So I only have one picture of it. And it was just such a horrible experience. And then I thought to myself, so many people are mixing plaster in plastic bags, and, it's just a lot of waste. And my mission is to really preserve Bigfoot's environment and kind of protect their species. And so when I thought about how we're conducting field work, it just didn't really match up with what I want to do for this species. So I decided to make a collapsible bucket, and it has a little Bigfoot on it. And basically it folds up. It could go right in your backpack. It's small enough and compact enough to fit in an average size backpack. And then when you come across a footprint and you want to cast it, you just pop out the bucket. It becomes a full-size bucket. Pour in your plaster, mix it with water, and then when you're done, collapse it right back up, and all the plaster kind of flakes off and cleans itself. So it's been a very useful invention so far.
I'm sure it is, but you're right. The plastic bags, man, they're such a pain. It's messy, and they just doesn't work really well. Pretty impressive, I have to say. I mean, you look young. I'm not going to ask your age because it's not, ask a woman.
That's okay. I just turned 26, so I am definitely still new to this.
Yeah, you're a baby. Like, it's really impressive that that you're doing all this.
Thank you.
Kudos to you for taking advantage of, your passion and kind of parlaying it into, other things, or helping, using your talent for making these things right in the beginning to help you with this passion. Kudos to you. It's
Thank
really
you.
awesome.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and no, I mean it. It's really cool. I wish I had a talent.
Oh, you're a great host.
Yeah, we'll see where that gets me. No, I'm just kidding. I love this. I have so much fun. Matter of fact, that's actually the next thing I was going to talk about. I heard you say at one point that, through the process, like when you were young and you were watching these films and you were reading these books and all that stuff, you were seeing people like Dr. Meldrum, Peter Byrne, Ron Moorhead, and all these people who are the godfathers of this topic, right?
Yes.
Were so impressive. And you looked at them like your heroes. I'm the same way, right? Obviously I liked other things, but when it came down to it, like as I grew up as an adult, they were the people that I still really held in such high regard. The other people that I thought were cool and stuff when I was younger fell by the wayside, but these people did not. Matter of fact, I think that maybe over the course of time, my admiration for them only grew.
Right.
So, can you tell me about like some of these people that you looked up to, and why, or what books you might have read along the way? Just let us know who you looked up to on your way through this kind of funny community.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think anyone's really asked me that before. But yeah, I think it's super important in this field of study to have mentors. Mentors are really important because we don't really know everything about Sasquatch. So to find out as much as you can is very important. And to find out from people that were kind of pioneering this research back in the 70s and even the 60s is just, I think, vital. And something that I've been trying to do lately is kind of refocus, because so often we put so much emphasis on the past and the historical elements of Bigfoot, and we kind of forget about the present. We forget about the future even. How are we going to discover them? So I think it's important to keep all of those elements in line. However, it is really important to study the history of this subject and to learn from those people. So one person that I've really been learning from a lot is Peter Byrne. And, Peter is a really generous person, very generous with his time. I asked him to be on one of my podcasts a while back, and he was so gracious and said, yes, he'd love to help me out. I don't think he really knew what a podcast was. He kind of thought it was like a school project. But I really wanted him to kind of educate people about his expeditions in the Himalayas and the Pacific Northwest, because, he really was pioneering the search for Sasquatch at that time. So he came on my podcast, and then I think that he thought that it was every week. So he started calling me every Tuesday, and I would just answer the phone and it would be Peter. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to ignore his call. I mean, this is one of the greatest, people in Bigfooting. So I talked to him every Tuesday for like a month or two. And
That's amazing.
it was so funny. It was such a great experience getting to know him on a more personal level and just hearing all of his stories. And he was just an open book. I asked him so many questions about prints that he found and his experience in the Himalaya. And he just was so honest and forthcoming with everything, and just kind of told me all of his personal stories and his adventure stories, and it was really cool. And so him and I don't agree on everything when it comes to Sasquatch, but really, who does? I mean, we don't know enough about them for one person to know more than another. So it's just really exciting to share theories with people like him. And during the pandemic, I was laid off from my job, like I said, so I had a lot of time to do podcasts. So I had people on like Kathy Strain, Ron Moorhead. It was really great to hear from them because, again, these are people that were studying Sasquatch from kind of the very beginning. And so I think it's really important to learn from them. What did they do that worked? What did they do that didn't work? And then kind of take that into the present and kind of plan for the future using that information. So it's been really great getting to know everybody. And I would say, yeah, my coolest experience is probably talking to Peter Byrne every Tuesday because, I mean, just hearing the story of how he stole the Peng Boche hand from the monastery in Nepal, I mean, that was just like, I couldn't even believe he told me that story because I don't think he's really said that publicly very often before he came on my podcast and told that story. But hearing it firsthand, you hear so much buzz about it, and it's true. He tricked the monks into giving him the hand, and I think he paid them off a little, got him a little drunk, and stole this Yeti hand, smuggled it across to India in Jimmy Stewart's wife's lingerie case. I mean, just the whole story is so convoluted and ridiculous. To hear it in person was just so cool, and he chuckles when he tells it. It's a funny story, and it's really it's cool to learn from somebody who really started this initiative, and it's just a shame. Like, I really wish I could have met Bindernagel and Patterson, and those would have been really cool people to meet as well. But I just try and mingle within this community and meet new people, and especially people who were pioneering. I think it's really important to learn from them.
Sure, it really is. I'm a huge fan of Peter Burns. That story, man. First of all, Peter Byrne and Jimmy Stewart, like, say no more. Like,
isn't that crazy?
Say no more. That would be just that alone.
Yep.
Is a story, right? Never mind going and stealing a Yeti hand from these monks in a temple in the mountains. Like, it's so nuts, man.
And it's just funny because you hear stories like that, like you would never get away with something like that nowadays, So to hear that story, it's just so, I don't know, it's so nostalgic, and it's such an iconic story in the Bigfoot community. So it's been great learning from Peter, and he's been so sweet, telling me, oh, come out, I'll take you to my research spots, and it would be awesome. We actually tried to coordinate meeting up when I was in Oregon, but we didn't end up meeting up, unfortunately. But you know what? I mean, he's getting older, and it's time for him to rest and enjoy his life. So I don't mind at all. And it's just getting to talk to him on the phone has been just such an honor. And so it's been good to learn from him. But I always say, famous, not famous, pioneer or not a pioneer, like, I learn from everybody.
Sure.
I've had people on my podcast from all walks of life. I've had people like Kathy Strain and Ron Moorhead, Dr. Meldrum, and then I've had people on like Shane Corson and Connor Anderson and all different people, and Eli Watson and Levi Makovic, and just having all of these researchers kind of combine and unite, right, on my podcast. I mean, I have learned from the experts, I have learned from the amateurs, I have learned from the newbies, and this is all a subject where we really don't know anything. Nobody's really an expert at this. People like to pretend they are, and certain people might know more than others and understand more of the anatomy and the science and the history, and totally props to them for knowing all that stuff. I mean, I don't ever feel like I'll be an expert until we discover Bigfoot and are able to properly study them. But I think it's important to learn from everybody. And unfortunately, some researchers in the community, there is kind of like a hierarchy where, they only want to learn from certain people that have a reputation. And I think that's a shame because some of the most incredible people I have spoken to have started out as kind of a nobody. Nobody knew their names. They weren't really finding much evidence. And now, fast forward like 3 years, these are some of the best researchers in the field. And so, you kind of have to look at it that way. I mean, I don't think any of us knew what an Australopithecine was before we got into this subject. So to
Yeah,
judge
right.
other people, I just think like welcome everybody, talk to everybody, you can learn something from everybody. So I'll talk to anybody if they are, willing to talk to me. That's how
Yeah,
I am.
definitely. I fully agree with you. Because everybody's right. So in that everybody's different. Um, it really does mean that everybody has something different to bring to the table.
Right.
And if you work together, you add all of those things up, you're going to have a much better shot at learning more and finding out more and getting closer to these things. And if you shut people out, I mean, I just never understood that mentality. Just not me.
Me neither. I guess I'm just a friendly person.
You seem it. You seem it. I mean, backstage you were a little diva-ish. No, I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. Totally kidding.
That's so funny.
Sorry. So, all right. Let's. I'm not going to keep you too much longer. Maybe for another 3 hours. So let's do a little fun. Let's do a couple fun questions. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to give you one from the chat first.
Sure.
Did you watch Finding Bigfoot?
I did.
Okay. What's Emily's favorite episode of Finding Bigfoot? Do you have a favorite episode?
Oh, I think there was one in North Carolina, I believe, or it might have been South Carolina, where they were in these like big covered ATVs with thermal imagers that were kind of rotating around, and they ended up catching something on the therm. I'm pretty sure it's like the first or second season. I really like that episode because I'm not sure if they ever really figured out what it was. I did ask Cliff at one point if he knew, if it ended up being a Sasquatch or not, and he couldn't remember the episode, so I guess it wasn't something, but I did enjoy that one. I thought it was pretty exciting. And I thought that the research technique was very like creative.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for, that time it was, it was a long time ago now. How long ago was that?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy how much time has gone by since that show was on.
Yeah, I don't even like to think about it. That's nuts. But yeah, there was an episode that I remember. It was like one of the very first ones, I believe, where Matt saw something in the woods. They were in the ATVs, and he caught something on therm, and he just took off. He was like,
I think it might be the same episode. Yeah.
Yeah, he just ran in, and they got all mad at him. They were like, "You don't go alone. You don't run off alone." And
yeah.
he was like, "Well, I'm trying to catch Bigfoot," and they're like, "You really think you're gonna catch it by yourself, brother?" Like,
there was like so much drama in that episode. It was like an episode of the Kardashians or something.
What's a Kardashian? No, just kidding. So let's see. Anybody got any other questions? If you got questions, please put them in all caps so that I can find them easier. Okay, but I was going to ask you a question. Of all the Bigfoot like footage that there's been throughout the years, what is your favorite piece of footage that's been caught so far? And you can't say Patty; it's got to be something different.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the PG film, we pretty much know that that's real. We haven't been able to disprove it, so I would say in terms of footage that we're not sure about, the Independence Day footage I find very fascinating. Not too many people are familiar with it, but if you type into YouTube like Independence Day Bigfoot or Bigfoot filmed on Independence Day, something like that, it comes up, and it's basically a Sasquatch, well, what we assume to be a Sasquatch, holding what looks to be a smaller one, like a baby. And it kind of peeks up from behind this rock and waddles over with a baby. And, it's just a really incredible piece of footage. And I personally have not found any videos like debunking it or anything like that. I'm not sure. But I do have a team member that is in the film industry, and he basically says that that would be really hard to create with CGI. So I'm a big fan of that one.
pretty funny you say that, because this is what I posted the other day on my group on Facebook.
Let's
Can
see.
you see that?
Oh, there it is.
It's my favorite too. I think it's incredible.
I think it's real. I mean, I could be wrong. I just don't see how that could be
No.
hoax.
And here's the thing too, right? So it'd be very difficult to hoax with a real baby. Okay.
Right.
Making an animatronic baby is even more expensive than making a suit for a full-grown person with maybe animatronic hands or facial movements. So you're talking about tens of thousands, if not maybe $100,000.
Right.
Who the hell's got that kind of money to just? And no one's taking credit for this.
Right. Exactly. That's why I find it weird. I mean, I've tried to look into who posted the original. I think the original's not on YouTube anymore, so I don't know who really posted it or anything, but it's a very interesting piece of footage. I mean, until we know more details, it's really hard to say, but when you look at the creature running, its trailing leg is pretty much at a right angle, which is the same thing you see with Patty. So, I think it could definitely be real.
Yeah, I was going to say that the leg bend is just perfectly in line, almost, if not perfectly in line with Patty's. And then when you see it walking, I mean, what's behind the rocks, right? It's moving just like so many people talk about. It's like it's gliding.
Yep.
It's so smooth. It's so fluid. There's no head bobbing up and down and side to side, and it's amazing. It's just amazing.
It really is.
That's been my favorite. I think my second favorite would probably be maybe the Freeman footage.
Yeah, the Freeman footage is really, really good too.
Yeah, that's another really good one. So somebody asks, can Emily give us her perspective on tree structures? Very good question.
So that's a great question, and people ask me that all the time. Tree structures, I think, it's just so difficult to say whether we can attribute them to Sasquatch. And even if we say, okay, some of them are made by Sasquatches, how do we really tell the difference? I think that it's definitely possible that they make tree structures. There is a tribe in Borneo called the Cave Punan, and they basically live in caves. They're one of the oldest cultures in the Borneo area. I think the scientists, I watched a whole documentary on it, but anyways, the Cave Punan basically have 3 different languages. They have a more common language that most other cultures have there and tribes have there. But then they have a very ancient language that scientists can barely even translate because it's so old and this community has been around for so long. And then their third language is a stick language. So basically, because they travel through cave systems, they have to be able to say, hey, I'm going this way and I'll be gone for this long. So they take little sticks and they put them on the ground and they make little formations with the sticks in order to tell each other, who went where, when they'll be back, things like that. So it's very interesting to see that a group of humans is kind of doing this, and people do attribute stick structures to Sasquatch. So I don't think that it's far off. I think it's very possible that they do this. But personally, I did a little experiment. I went to Long Island, New York, which has absolutely no Sasquatch sightings, no Sasquatches on Long Island. There's just no way that they are there. I went into the woods and I looked for tree structures, and lo and behold, I found so many that most people would look at and say, hey, that's a Sasquatch. I even found tree twists. And so I think, when you look at that, it kind of just goes to show nature is a powerful force. And I think that a lot of these structures are created by nature. However, I've seen other ones that have kind of looked more like a deer corral. And I think to myself, could they be utilizing these structures to kind of push the deer a certain way so that they can hunt them easier, which in my opinion would be a very human-like behavior. But yeah, I think we just need more data. We need more information. We need to basically have a cluster of reports of people observing Sasquatch making the structures. because then we'll kind of get a better idea for like which ones they're making, if they're making any, and why.
Yeah, I agree. The kid in me, the imagination that
Right.
wild loves to instantly go, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. But I do, I do try very, very, very hard to be very diligent about breaking these things down when I find them.
Right.
When I walk up on something that looks really crazy,
Mm-hmm.
I'm instantly very excited, hoping that there's no way that I can debunk this.
Right.
Unfortunately, for the most part, they can be debunked. But I have found some things that I just could not, for the life of me, I could not figure out how in the world any man could have done it.
I think it's very possible.
Yeah, I mean, extremely large, heavy trees that are shoved with a root ball attached, shoved up another tree, and it's multiples of these things, and they're balanced perfectly. Like, and if you look, it doesn't look like they came from anywhere around there. I mean, I don't know. It's possible, but it's just weird. Good question, though. Very good question.
Yeah, I love that question.
Let's see. What else do we have here? What part of Oregon did you explore?
I explored Mount Hood National Forest. It was so incredible. Looks like Jurassic Park. And if you haven't been there yet, I highly suggest you check it out.
Agreed. Yeah, it's beautiful out there. It's like another world. It really is.
It really is.
How about when you've been in your area, you know there's no way it's nature. I don't know if is that for Emily Fresh? It says, how about when you've been in your area and you know there's no way it's nature? Some things are just impossible to comprehend and understand. I guess it's not really a question, but more of a talking point. Yeah, I guess, some things are, dude. Some things are very difficult to understand. All right, so I don't see any more questions there. Are you? I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Sure.
If I have all my stuff still, I have to check.
Welcome all questions.
You're gonna get some
Just
questions.
don't ask me to sell my feet. I've had that question a couple times before.
Don't ask me to do what?
People ask me to sell pictures of my feet because I'm attached to Bigfoot. I'm like, no, that's not what this is. I think they might get confused. They see Bigfoot and they're like, oh, is she like a foot person? I'm like, no. Footprint cats, yes. So that's the only question I don't welcome.
Oh, that's great. Oh my God.
I'm telling you. I mean, listen, if anyone wants to buy pictures of my footprint cast, I'm more than happy to do that.
Oh my God. Somehow.
Let me tell you, being on social media is great. You meet a lot of great people, but then sometimes you meet a lot of wacky people. I'm sure you know.
It's the weirdest place ever.
It
is. So weird. Oh my God. All right. So Fresh says fetish. That's crazy, man. I'm like scrolling through here and I'm like, wait, what did she say? Sell pictures of her feet.
Some people, they've asked me.
Oh, goodness gracious. Please tell me I still have it. Please tell me I still have it. Come on. I've got to have it. Here we go. I got it.
Okay.
Okay. Trivia time.
Ooh. I don't know if I'm going to be good at this, but we could try.
Trivia time. It's all Bigfoot related. It has nothing to do with feet, though.
Okay, good.
Okay. You should, I don't know, maybe if there's enough people out there, maybe you should start a only feet, only fans.
I don't know about that. That's going to be a no.
Oh, that's great.
Too
Okay.
funny.
Here we go. You ready?
Mhm.
What year did they film Patty?
1967.
Correct. Bonus points if you know what the date was.
October 20th.
Nice. Okay. What was the name of the man who claimed that Patty was a hoax and he was the man wearing the suit?
Oh, Bob Hieronymus, right?
Very good.
Hey.
What is the name of the Chinese version of Bigfoot?
Aaron.
Man, you're good. You're the first person who's gone 3 for 3 in the first 3.
Wow.
Okay, here we go. You're gonna get this one. Who's the head of the anthropology department at Idaho State University and renowned for his study of the foot morphology of reported Sasquatch track casts?
That would be Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum.
Yeah, another guy who's got a foot fetish. The word Sasquatch originated from what folklore of which Native American group? I'm going to give you 3 options. The Tillamook, the Choctaw, or the Coast Salish?
Number 3, the Coast Salish.
Man, Salish, I say. You're good.
I don't know.
You're good.
I'm usually terrible at trivia.
Well, if you fail the last one, we are not going to be friends.
Uh-oh.
Name the man whose 1955 Sasquatch sighting is considered the first on modern record. Is it William Shatner, William Rowe, or Will I Am?
I'm going to go with William Shatner now. It is William Rowe.
Wow, that was pretty good. I've never had anybody get all of them, which is surprising. You would think that.
Really?
Yeah, you would think that most people would. I do have a couple more. You want to go for a couple more?
We could try.
All right, here we go. These are more related to the Beast of Bray Road, though.
I don't really know much about that, to be honest.
Hold on one second.
Still learning about that one. One of my team members studies that one pretty extensively.
I'll give you 2 more because they're not related to the beast, okay? What did they call the Bigfoot-like creature that was the inspiration for the movie The Legend of Boggy Creek?
Ooh, the Falk monster?
Ding, ding, ding.
Okay.
Nice. And last one. What is the name given to the small bipedal creature said to roam the forests of Indonesia?
Oh, I have a footprint from one.
We're back
Oh
to
gosh.
feet again.
Get
off the feet. Come on.
How can I forget this? I'm totally blanking. This is like put me on the spot blanking.
Sounds like orangutan kind of.
Oh yeah, orang pendek. How can I forget that? I literally have an orang pendek cat.
Very, very good. Man, you did great. Let me see. Is there a couple more questions, and then I won't keep you too much longer. We'll get you out of here. Emily, do you think we are dealing with a flesh and blood being or something that's woo? There seems to be something else going on.
I do believe that we're dealing with flesh and blood, but that's just my opinion. I mean, everybody has their own experiences, and I think that there is a significant number of reports that detail some weird stuff attached to seeing a Sasquatch. So personally, I don't focus in on that area of study. I focus only on the physical and tangible evidence. But I'm really glad that there are people out there that are investigating, a potential connection between other worlds and Sasquatch, because I mean, I think it's important to have people covering all ground. But personally, I just focus on the physical evidence, and I treat it more like, another human or another great ape or, something along those lines, rather than treating it like a paranormal entity.
Yeah, I get it. it's easier to study something that's flesh and blood than something
Right.
that's bouncing through dimensions on you.
Mhm.
And, we know that at least they do spend some of their time, at flesh and blood, and moving through the forests. So, yeah, amazing. Hold on. I'm sorry. 1 second. I don't know what happened. My internet's acting up. And I want to get it before it goes out on me because it does that quite often. We're so professional, aren't we?
Listen, these are the fun podcasts.
Yeah, here's the deal. I'm never going to be, I would never want to be like I would never want to be stuffy, like have people come on and feel like they have to like abide by some rules and stuff.
Right.
I don't know. And I've been on a couple of those. I just feel so much pressure. It's like, oh my gosh. Like,
I agree.
At some point, I think if we get kind of going a little bit, I'll have to be a little more professional, at least in the way it's presented. But we'll always.
I think you're doing great. I'm really having fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad. That's the whole point. Man. Bad audio? Someone's saying bad audio?
Yeah, I do hear some like kind of crackling a little bit. Kind of sounds like maybe an air conditioner or something in the background. Maybe, I don't know. That's kind of what it sounds like. Fuzzy. I can still hear you though.
Is that any better?
I can hear you. I mean, I don't think it's like affecting the quality of like you speaking at all. It's just kind of like a background noise. Yeah, that's actually better.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Sometimes I don't know what's going on. This mic is new, and
oh yeah. I have the same one. It takes a little while to get used to it. That's the Yeti.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I guess when you adjust the gain on it, it picks up background noise, and
yep.
I don't know. So it's all new to me. He said, "Sounds like when you talk to someone on the phone who's driving."
Yeah, it does.
Not driving right now, guys. Definitely not.
Much better now.
So, sorry, Did I miss another question? Okay, no, just that one. I wanted to ask you just one more because I forgot to ask it before. Actually, two-parter.
Sure.
Favorite book related to Bigfoot of all time?
That's a tough one. This is not a plug, but I just have to be honest. My favorite book is my team member, Levi. He wrote 2 different books. The first one was really good, but the second one was incredible. It's called The Sasquatch Paradox, and it's basically about the scientific defiance to the existence of relict hominoids. So it basically talks about why science is ignoring this topic. Why are they ignoring the evidence? And what is the evidence? He goes into the Patterson-Gimlin film in great detail and talks about why that could not be a hoax and basically proves it. And Levi's actually studying to be a lawyer. So a lot of his arguments towards the existence of Sasquatch are very grounded in evidence and facts. So I would say, as much as I love Dr. Meldrum's book, Legend Meets Science, and, Dr. Bindernagel's book, I mean, there are just so many great books out there and great resources. But I would say my absolute favorite is Levi's book, because if you're new to Sasquatch, it's very digestible and easy to understand. I remember when I first got into this subject, I did read Dr. Meldrum's book, and I felt like every paragraph I had to Google something, and it was just so stressful, and I'm not bashing his book at all. I mean, he's done such a service to this subject by writing that book. But I just think that it's not always practical for people to read something like that, because some people may have a different education level or, may just not understand some of those topics. So Levi's book really kind of breaks down all the science and history into a very digestible form. And it's just a great book. So you could grab it on Amazon, and I also have them available on my website. They're not up just yet because I'm waiting for my next shipment. But if you wanted, you could buy it really anywhere that you buy your books. So it's an awesome book. I recommend it.
I'm going to check it out. It sounds amazing. Really, it does. Cashew, being the magician that she is, pulled it up like as the words came out of your mouth. I don't know how she does it, but she does. Nope, I'm not asking that one. Nope, sorry. Are either of you familiar with Kiwani lapsaritis?
I don't think so.
No, I don't either. I don't know who that is, Brad. But you could tell us if you'd like. So the book was the first one. I have a favorite documentary about the subject, and even a favorite. I guess it would be like just a movie. Regular movie. So, favorite documentary on Bigfoot.
I have to say, I really like the small town monster stuff. Beast of Whitehall was great. On the Trail of Sasquatch. I was actually in one of those, but the one I was in is not even my favorite. I like the other one a little bit better. I just love their stuff. I think Seth does a great job of just really focusing in on the people researching the subject and kind of just like let Sasquatch shine through, and other cryptids for that matter too. You learn so much about these different cryptids through the people that are researching them, and Seth makes it so much less about himself and so much more about the people that are actually out there in the field. And I think it actually inspired Seth to go and be one of those people out in the field, and he had his own encounter. So I really like what they put out. I really think it's just good, honest work, and everybody involved is really great. So I would say definitely the small town monster stuff. And in terms of movies, I would say The Legend of Bigfoot by Ivan Marks is what got me into this. And I know he's a hoaxer, but I still just love that movie. I think it's just so inspiring and exciting and super 70s, or 60s. I don't even know when it came out. It's just really cool.
I think it was the 70s, but yeah.
I think it might have been. I think it was 72 maybe.
I think you might be right. Damn, you got a memory. So must be something about the small town monsters clicks. Alex has that damn memory too.
Yeah.
Mine, my favorite book actually is 50 Years with Bigfoot.
Ooh, what's that one? Who's that by?
It's the story of you know who Janice Carter is?
I don't think so.
Janice Carter and oh my gosh, the lady, her name is slipping me right now.
You have to send me the link. I'd love to check it out.
It's not scientific at all. It is literally the story of this lady and her family who had a family of Sasquatch on their property for 50 years.
Really?
Yeah. And apparently had a full relationship with them to the point where she would protect them if something happened or one of them got hurt. She would leave them food. They would sleep in the barn. Just crazy.
Very interesting.
The old man, his name was Fox. It's I don't know if it's all real, but again, right? So this topic for me is about learning, but it's also about fun, man. It's also about fun. And it's always that what if factor. Man, how cool would that be?
Right.
So that's my favorite book.
I'd love to read that.
It's really, really intriguing. If you can read it from the point of view, with an open mind and go, imagine if this is real.
Right.
It's amazing. Well, the one lady who fed them Mackie D cheeseburgers.
Everybody loves McDonald's, even Seth.
Yeah. McDonald's. Ugh.
Although I would not recommend giving them any sort of food because of, we could spread our disease to them. If we were able to give them food safely, I would definitely get them a McDonald's hamburger and some fries.
You would choose a McDonald's hamburger?
Yeah.
Come on, you could do better than that.
I guess we probably could, maybe a little Wendy's or something like that, Burger King, I don't know, Whopper.
Have you ever had a Five Guys cheeseburger?
I'm not a big Five Guys person. I know.
What?
Unpopular opinion.
Oh my God, are you a Shake Shack person?
Not so much. I kind of like, what's that one I used to eat at all the time? Smash Burger. I like Smash Burger.
Oh yeah, and you know what's crazy? Like, they don't get a whole lot of love.
They don't. They have such good fried pickles.
Yes, and I love the little string fries, the Parmesan ones.
Yes, so good.
Super good, super good. Man, nobody ever says them. That's crazy. And then documentary wise, and this is not like, it's not for any reason than, it was the right film at the right time.
Right.
When I was struggling with my encounter, I was trying to find something to latch onto and to try to find out more, whatever. And I remember Bigfootville came on, and it was in Oklahoma. It was filmed. They found people who had encounters or saw these things, and
I think I might have seen that one. It sounds really familiar. Is it on Amazon?
I believe it is. Yeah, I believe it is.
I'll have to rewatch that one.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's like a road sign, a yellow road sign.
Yeah.
Like Bigfoot. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Bigfootville.
I've seen that one. That one's good.
It is good, again, so this is not some like scientific crazy, but it was just the right film at the right time, and it's still, I still love it just because of that. I love any of the Monster Quest stuff is so good.
So good.
I don't just say that because of Doug either. Like, it was just so good. It was so well made.
It really was.
And then there was another one that was really good with Dr. Meldrum, and they went to Vancouver Island.
Mm-hmm. Yep, with that nail and the...
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot which one that was, but it was so good.
That was super good. Yeah, that was. I forget the name of it. But yeah, there's so many great ones out there. Les Stroud's series is really good.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. But there's so much. It's just crazy. Going from like when I was a kid, where you couldn't, you barely saw it. It just wasn't a big deal, to now it's spoken about much more openly. Right. I think, depending on where you are, in like this area in the southeast part of Connecticut, probably in the southwest part of Connecticut too, I'd imagine, like Greenwich and all that. I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of people talking about it. It's the culture here, and I hate to say this, a little bit snobby in places. And it's all about keeping up with the Joneses. So Joneses don't believe in Bigfoot, then
right.
You can't talk about it. Just the way it is. So, but it is. I do believe it is talked about much more openly than it used to be, which I think is super important. To spread awareness and stuff. And then movie, you're not going to believe this. This is even probably worse than the book and the documentary. Nostalgia factor. It's not Harry and the Hendersons. It was a Disney Saturday night family movie when I was a kid, and I'm much older than you. It was called Bigfoot, and that's all it was called, was Bigfoot. And it was Candace Cameron from Full House.
What?
I swear to God. And and she was with whoever her brother was. I forget who played her brother in this movie. They were out in the Pacific Northwest with their family on a camping trip. They went off when they weren't supposed to. She fell and broke her ankle and was helped by.
I have to see this.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Great. You gotta send that my way for sure.
And the craziest thing is, like, it disappeared from the world forever. Like, I tried so hard to find this thing and I could not find it. And then one day I stumbled upon on Instagram some guy who had who was selling old VHSs that he had turned to DVDs.
Oh my God.
Yes. And like the craziest thing. So I ended up buying 3 movies that I hadn't seen since I was a kid, that I loved when I was a kid. And all 3 had disappeared from like everywhere.
Wow.
One was that movie. Another one was an Ewok movie from Star Wars.
Wow.
And then another one was this movie called Rad, which is about BMX riders.
I love it. That's great. Well, it's almost like fate that.
Oh, it was so crazy.
That's so weird.
It was so crazy. I think you can find it on YouTube now.
I'm sure it's somewhere. I'll have to do some digging.
Yeah, it's so cool, man. I loved it, and I still do.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my 3 Bigfoot loves. What was that? Did I miss? Search for Sabe is a great series. Next episode is Bumping Lake in Washington. Comes on November 20th at 8 p.m. Oh, what's the next Small Town Monsters that I just saw the other day? The Alaskan
one. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, that looks amazing. The teaser looked so good.
I'm so excited.
Were you part of that one or no?
No, but my team member Eli was. He was there, and they experienced a really
I've never met him before, but I've only seen him on there. But he rocks. I like that dude a lot.
Oh, I love him. You should interview him. I'll send you his information. He's a lot of fun to talk to.
I would love to have him on the show.
Yeah, he probably would love to.
I feel like I haven't seen him in a lot of places, but I like him, man. I think he's right up my alley.
Oh yeah, you guys would get along so well.
Yeah, I think so too. So anyway, I'm not going to keep you any longer. You've been here for like an hour and 40 minutes, and I truly, truly appreciate it.
Of course, it was so much fun chatting with you.
Yeah, this was great. I had a really good time, and I hope you'll come back soon.
Yes, absolutely, anytime. And I'd love to get you on my podcast to talk about your encounter.
Whenever you want. I have no life. I'm free all the time.
I love it.
No, but I will. If you want, you just let me know, and I'll make time. I work from home, so
me too. That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, I appreciate it. This was wonderful. Everybody, Emily, Fleur, give her a digital round of applause if you can. And I will be back tomorrow night with The Godfather. I'll be back with Al Santoriga. Do you know Al? Do you know who Al is?
I don't, but I've never personally connected with him, but that sounds awesome.
Al's awesome. Al's he's a New York guy too.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Bronx or Brooklyn guy, and you could tell when you talk to him. It's very evident in his language.
I love it. I'm
colorful.
definitely going to be tuning in for that.
He's great, but listen, he was on just before, like a couple weeks ago, and we did like 2 hours, and we didn't even scratch the surface of the stuff that he wanted to talk about. So, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, please have him back, please have him back." So I was like, "Dude, you got to come back like as soon as possible." And so he'll be back tomorrow. He's going to get into some of the other stories that he didn't get to tell us, and the ones he told us were amazing. I mean, he does aliens, UFOs, Bigfoot, Dogman,
oh my God,
and paranormal. He investigates all of this stuff, and he's done it for like 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah, he's been everywhere. And
Oh my gosh, I definitely have to check out the last episode, and then I'll tune in tomorrow.
yeah, he's such an entertaining guy too. He's really fun, and a good buddy. So yeah, tune in tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. I'll be back. And that's it for this week, guys. I'm not doing anything on Saturday. I'm taking this weekend off. Oh, I want to let everybody know real quick. Saturday, I am going to meet with a couple who had a sighting of a female Sasquatch at the state forest just a few weeks ago. They snapped a picture, and so they agreed to meet me at the state forest to show me exactly where this happened, and walk me through the encounter so I can record it for the channel. And then the very next day, I'm going to another family's house in the northwest corner, who since 2018, when they moved there, have had ongoing activity regularly. I mean, rocks being thrown at the house, rocks being thrown at them when they're out in the yard. When they're gardening, things are getting tossed at them. Branches being broken in the woods. Things tapping on their windows at night. Eye shine in the yard when they're like passing by the windows. They can see it because the lights go like glare or whatever will hit the eyes as it's like maybe passing by or whatever. They've seen it multiple times. They've found footprints which they took pictures of. There's just a lot of stuff going on, and the most recent stuff was a little while ago because more people have moved into the area, so they think that maybe they've kind of mellowed out, got a little nervous and mellowed out, but still, interesting. So I'm hoping I'll find some good stuff. But either way, I'll get a really good story out of it, and that's always fun. So I'll be back next Wednesday with Alex Petikoff will be on. So stay tuned for that. And I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to do something really good for yourselves. Take time for yourself. And I will see you in a few days. If you want to hang out backstage for a couple minutes, and then I'll let you go.
Sure.
All right, guys. Have a great night. Thank you so much. I love you all.